Hello and welcome to a brand new segment from the Optify network called The Pulse. In this segment, we focus on a story or series of stories that have the potential impact to pulsate through the economy, the business sector, and even the general public. We promise you are not going to want to miss this new segment. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube or exclusively on Spotify. Now hang tight and enjoy the show. Whether you're building a business or creating your next big project, OneMen AI is your go-to tool. In minutes, craft a custom business plan or content strategy with AI-powered templates, market insights, and financial forecasting. Perfect for entrepreneurs and creators alike. Get a lifetime subscription at a special price today and elevate your work. All right, so are you ready to dive into a tech mystery?
Always up for a good mystery. What have you got?
Okay, good. Today, it's the big one. Who is Satoshi Nakamoto?
Ah, the creator of Bitcoin. Yeah, that's one for the ages.
It really is. Everyone's heard the name, but no one knows who they really are, or even if it was just one person.
Right, it could have been a whole group.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to dig into today, right? We've got some articles here, and we're focusing on one particular theory that's been making the rounds.
Okay, lay it on me.
What if, and this is a big what if, Jack Dorsey, the founder of Twitter, is Satoshi?
Wow, Jack Dorsey, huh? Interesting.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, he's a big name in tech and super into Bitcoin.
You're not kidding. Founded Twitter, which is X now, and then there's Block.
Yeah, Block, that digital payments company. So he's definitely got the background, right?
For sure. So what's the evidence?
Well, we've got some articles from deBanked, Cryptonomist, and Coinograph that lay out the case.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay, so one thing that jumps out is the timing of everything.
What do you mean?
Well, Dorsey's been into Bitcoin for a long time, and his interest seems to match up with when Satoshi was most active, like their timelines kind of overlap.
Oh, that's interesting, like they were the same person or something.
Yeah, exactly. And it gets even weirder. Get this, Bitcoin's very first transaction ever happened on Dorsey's mother's birthday.
No way, seriously.
Seriously. And then the last block that Satoshi ever mined was on, you guessed it, Dorsey's father's birthday.
Whoa, okay, that's a little too coincidental, right?
I know. It's crazy, right?
Definitely makes you think. So, birthdays aside, is there anything more concrete?
There are a few other things. For example, the Bitcoin code and Dorsey's old Twitter profile both mention 4 a.m.
4 a.m.? What, like they were both working on stuff at that time?
Maybe. It could be a total coincidence, but it's just weird, right?
Yeah, that's strange. Anything else?
Oh yeah, remember that time when Satoshi's IP address was accidentally leaked?
I think so, vaguely.
Well, it seemed like they were in California at the time. And guess who was in California around then too?
Dorsey.
Bingo.
Getting more interesting by the minute.
And then there's this mysterious Bitcoin address, JD2M.
JD2M. What's that about?
People think it could stand for Jack Dorsey 2 Mint, which is supposedly connected to his old place in San Francisco.
Wait, hold on. Jack Dorsey 2 Mint. Isn't that a little bit of a stretch?
It might be, yeah. But there's even more. Remember the whole WikiLeaks thing?
Yeah, vaguely. Refresh my memory.
Well, Satoshi was totally against people donating Bitcoin to WikiLeaks. And right after that, Twitter got hit with a subpoena for information about WikiLeaks.
Oh, wow. So it's like Satoshi knew about the subpoena before it happened, and then didn't Satoshi disappear from the online chats right around that time?
They did. It's almost like they knew something was up. And let's not forget, when someone flat out asked Dorsey if he was Satoshi,
What did he say?
he said, "No, and if I were, would I tell you?"
So basically, he didn't deny it.
Exactly. And get this, recently on Nostr, which is like this decentralized social media platform, Dorsey posted, "I often imagine Satoshi sitting somewhere, laughing at all of this."
Ha ha. Okay, so he's definitely aware of all the speculation, and maybe even fueling it a bit.
Right, it's like he's in on the joke.
He could be, but let's be real for a second. We've got a lot of interesting coincidences, but is there any hard proof that Dorsey is Satoshi?
Well, not really. That's the biggest argument against the theory, I guess. It's all circumstantial, right?
Right. Substantial. And to be honest, creating something as complicated as Bitcoin would take a really deep understanding of cryptography. I mean, that's like serious coding and math stuff, you know?
True, that's a good point. I'm not sure Dorsey has that kind of background.
Yeah, me neither.
Okay, so maybe he's not Satoshi after all. But there's no denying he's had a huge impact on the crypto world. I mean, he's a big advocate, and his companies make it easier for people to buy and sell Bitcoin.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I wonder, though, you think his vision for, like, a decentralized internet, does that kind of line up with Satoshi's original philosophy with Bitcoin?
That's a great question. It's definitely worth exploring. I mean, Satoshi's whole thing was about decentralization, taking power away from governments and banks, right? And Dorsey's all about making the internet more open and accessible, less controlled by big corporations. So
maybe there's some overlap there.
could be.
It does make you wonder, though, why doesn't Dorsey just come out and address all these claims directly? I mean, if it's not true, why not just shut it down?
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Maybe he just wants to stay out of it. Or maybe he's enjoying the mystery.
That's a good point. He could be having a good laugh at all of this.
Yeah, maybe we're all playing right into his hand.
Well, we've laid out the evidence, the weird coincidences, all of it. What do you think? Is Jack Dorsey Satoshi Nakamoto?
Honestly, it's hard to say for sure. It's all very intriguing, but there's no smoking gun. But it does make you wonder, right?
It definitely does. Maybe the real Satoshi's out there somewhere, just watching all of this unfold.
Yeah, maybe just laughing
Laughing all the way to the bank, maybe?
with their billions in Bitcoin.
Now that's a thought. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back to keep digging into this.
It's a fascinating idea, though, isn't it? Like, imagine creating Bitcoin and then just disappearing.
I know, right? You'd think someone would want the credit, the fame.
Maybe Satoshi cared more about the idea itself, more than, like, being in the spotlight.
You think? It is kind of a radical idea, challenging the whole financial system. Maybe staying anonymous was safer.
Yeah, definitely possible. I mean, back then, Bitcoin was a total wild card. Governments and banks were definitely not on board.
True, true. But let's say, just for fun, that Dorsey is Satoshi. How big of a deal would that be?
Oh, massive. I mean, we're talking legend status. Not only did he create this revolutionary tech, but then built two giant companies on top of that, Twitter and a fintech company. That's crazy.
He'd be like a tech superhero or something.
Totally. But even if he's not Satoshi, you can't deny his impact on crypto. I mean, he's a huge supporter, and his companies are making it easier for people to actually use Bitcoin.
That's true. It's way more mainstream now than it used to be. Earlier, you mentioned how Dorsey's vision for the internet kind of lines up with Satoshi's whole philosophy behind Bitcoin. Can you unpack that a little more?
Sure, sure. It all comes back to decentralization, right? Satoshi wanted a financial system where the power wasn't concentrated in the hands of a few. And Dorsey, well, he's been pushing for a more open internet, one where users have more control over their data, their experience.
Less power for the big tech companies, basically.
Exactly.
So whether he's Satoshi or not, he's definitely playing a role in that whole movement.
No doubt. It's interesting, though, like we said before, why hasn't he ever addressed these claims directly?
I mean, some people have flat out said, I'm not Satoshi. Why not just do that?
Maybe he likes keeping people guessing.
Could be. Or maybe, just maybe.
What?
Maybe he's got something even bigger up his sleeve. Something that'll blow everyone's minds.
Whoa, okay, now that's a theory I haven't heard before. What do you have in mind?
I don't know. But it's fun to speculate, right?
Definitely. Let me get back to the evidence for a sec, though. We keep talking about Dorsey's evasive answers, but there's a lot more to consider. He's been interested in cryptography and decentralization for a long time.
Oh, yeah, like way back in college, right? I remember seeing a photo of him wearing that RSA t-shirt.
Right. And wasn't Adam Back in that photo, too? The guy who created Hashcash?
Yep, and he even took some cryptography classes in college.
Plus, remember that manifesto he wrote about leaving a mark on the world without a trace? Sounds pretty Satoshi-like, right?
Yeah, it's like he was planning this all along. And what about that autobiography he put out years ago? He talked about working on cryptography projects at 4 a.m.?
Wait a minute, 4 a.m.? Isn't that the same timestamp on all those original Bitcoin code documents?
Oh my God, you're right. I totally forgot about that.
It's all starting to add up.
It's like a puzzle. And remember that whole sailor thing?
The sailor thing.
Yeah, Dorsey's Twitter profile used to say he was a sailor. And there's that quote in the original Bitcoin code about never going to sea with 2 chronometers.
Oh, I see what you mean. It's like all these little breadcrumbs, and they all seem to lead back to Dorsey.
It's wild. So we've got timestamps, IP addresses, cryptic Bitcoin addresses, even nautical sayings connecting Dorsey to Bitcoin. It's almost too much to be a coincidence, right?
It's a lot to process, that's for sure. But I still don't know. Is it enough to definitively say he's Satoshi?
That's the billion-dollar question, or I guess the billion-dollar question in Bitcoin terms.
That's right. I think we need to look at it from both sides. We've been talking about the stuff that points to Dorsey, but what about the arguments against him being Satoshi? What are those?
Well, the biggest one is the lack of concrete evidence, like we said before. Maybe all these things are just coincidences.
Yeah, coincidence is a powerful thing.
And some people say that Dorsey might not be techie enough to create Bitcoin all by himself.
That's true, but I mean, he's surrounded himself with some serious tech talent over the years. Who knows who he might have collaborated with?
Yeah, maybe he had help. Or maybe Satoshi was a group effort all along.
Oh, that's an interesting thought.
Right. Maybe Dorsey was the brains behind the idea, and then he brought in other people to help with the actual coding.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. It was massive undertaking.
Totally. What are some of the other arguments against Dorsey?
Well, some folks say that his personality just doesn't fit the Satoshi mold. Satoshi was super private, like a ghost. Dorsey's a public figure, always on social media.
Yeah, that's true. He's very out there.
But hey, maybe he's just really good at playing different roles in different parts of his life.
Or maybe, just maybe, he's playing us all. Like in that Nostra post.
Huh. He could be laughing at all this speculation.
Well, he's definitely keeping us entertained. So what do you think? Does the evidence for Dorsey outweigh the evidence against him?
It's tough to say. It's not a clear-cut case either way. I think each person has to decide for themselves what they believe.
That's a good point. It's like a personal mystery to solve. But either way, it's a really thought-provoking conversation to have, right?
Absolutely. And it goes way beyond just one person's identity. We're talking about the future of technology, the future of finance. It's huge.
Yeah, and it's all connected to this bigger question of who controls the internet, right?
Exactly. Governments, big corporations, or the people. That's the debate at the heart of it all.
It makes you wonder, why is everyone so obsessed with finding out who Satoshi is anyway?
I think it's because Bitcoin has had such a massive impact. It's like, who wouldn't want to know the story behind it? Where did it come from? Who's the mastermind?
Right, it's like trying to figure out who invented fire. It's changed everything.
Exactly. And I think people love a good mystery, right? Especially one with this much potential for, well, fame and fortune.
If you could prove you're Satoshi, you'd be set for life.
Oh, for sure. But I think it goes deeper than that, too. It's about human curiosity, the desire to understand where things come from.
The origin story.
Right. And with Bitcoin, it's more than just a technology. It's a whole movement, a vision for the future.
And people want to know who started it all. It's pretty compelling, right?
It definitely is. And who knows, maybe one day the mystery will be solved.
Maybe. Until then, the speculation will continue.
And we'll be here to break it all down.
That's right. We're just getting started. There's so much more to explore, so many more questions to ask. Thinking about all this, it's not just about one guy, right? This whole Satoshi thing.
No, definitely not. It's way bigger.
It makes you think about the future of the internet itself.
Totally. I mean, we're talking about decentralization, privacy, who has the power, all those big issues.
It's like, what kind of online world do we want to live in? And Satoshi's vision for Bitcoin, that whole idea of a financial system outside the control of governments and banks, it feels like a blueprint for that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's about giving individuals more control. And that's what a lot of people are pushing for with the internet, too.
Exactly. Less power for the big tech companies, more power for the users. And Jack Dorsey, whether or not he's Satoshi, he seems to be right in the middle of that movement.
He's definitely a key player. With Twitter, Block, all his investments in decentralized tech, he's putting his money where his mouth is.
He is. It's a pretty big shift from how the internet works now.
Huge shift. I mean, right now it's all about these giant corporations calling the shots. This is about changing that.
So this whole debate about Satoshi, this is a much bigger story, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, way bigger. It's about control, freedom, what kind of digital world we're going to build.
Wow. So it's not just a tech mystery. It's something that affects everyone.
Everyone who uses the internet, for sure. What we do today, the choices we make, they're going to shape the internet of tomorrow.
So we should all be paying attention to this.
Absolutely. We need to understand what's at stake, make our voices heard. Because the future is being decided right now.
That's a pretty powerful thought. It makes this whole conversation feel a lot more important.
It is important, and it's exciting. I mean, we get to be a part of this. We get to shape the future.
Well, on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into Satoshi Nakamoto and the Jack Dorsey theory.
What a ride. Clues, counter-arguments, twists and turns.
We may never know the truth for sure, but we definitely explored a lot of interesting ideas along the way.
We did, and I hope we've inspired some of our listeners to do some exploring of their own.
That's what we're all about here at the Deep Dive. Asking questions, digging deeper, and having these kinds of conversations.
Conversations that matter.
Exactly. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Keep those brains buzzing, and we'll catch you next time.